Hello, everyone, and welcome to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I am your host, Ike. I am here with Alex. Say hello, Alex.
Hi, everyone.
How are we doing today?
Not too bad, not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Just got one question for you.
Hmm.
What's your favorite dad joke?
What do you call a man without arms and legs sitting in a lake?
I don't know. What do you call him?
Bob.
No.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a big runner. It's so dumb.
Reminds me, what do you call somebody with no arms and no legs on your front porch?
Oh, Matt. Right? It has to be.
Yeah, it's Matt. Yeah,
That's one of
and
my favorite things is trying to guess really bad dad jokes.
oh, it's a great one. Do you have a favorite underutilized word in the English language?
It would definitely have to be cattywampus.
What?
Anything used for like a skew or just like not in the right position. I work at a hospital, and so oftentimes I find my patients laying, as I call it, cattywampus, and it's any manner you can think of. A body could be on a bed I've seen.
That's awesome. What movie will you never skip when you're channel surfing?
Oh, that's easy. The Road to El Dorado.
Oh, classic.
Elton John did not have to go that hard, but he did.
But he did, and we love him for it.
Oh my gosh, such a quotable movie. I want the relationship that Miguel and Tulio have. Beautiful.
Growing up, did you have a favorite book?
Oh, absolutely. It was actually a book series called Red Wall by Brian Jacques.
Oh, yeah. I
It's about
was,
Mousy Fury.
yeah. Those books are fantastic. They hold up too. I remember reading one after they'd become popular, and I was too cool for school. And I remember reading one in I think high school. So they were
Mm.
targeted at like a more like a middle school demographic,
It's
and it
definitely a YA sort of thing.
yeah. I mean, it still slaps. And it was still compelling. It was really nice.
It
It's
really
always great
does.
when fiction is written in a way that it's not just for this like minimalized group, that it's got like kind of far-reaching tentacles that other people can grab hold of.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me very hungry. Every food in that book is written so tastily, but there's just something about being able to reach across multiple genres, like you said, that's pretty fantastic. Though I can say there is a comic book that came out that reminded me of the Redwall series, but it was like for more of an adult crowd because it was kind of like Redwall meets Game of Thrones in the violence.
Did they make a
Cool.
oh, what was that? Did they make a graphic novel of Watership Down? What are you talking about?
And it's called Squarriors, and it's literally about like the end of the world and animals gain like a human sentience, but all the humans are dead. And so, yeah, there's just like, bands of roving warrior squirrels and fox brutes, and you just see glorious colored pages of these animals ripping each other apart with medieval weaponry.
What's not to love? Family
Dude,
friendly
it's
for all ages.
amazing.
So, not wishing it upon you, but if tragedy struck and you had to evacuate your house, what would be the first thing you would grab?
Is this like besides all living creatures?
Yeah, let's say the living creatures can fend for themselves and get out.
Probably some pictures and some books.
Any pictures or books in particular that spring to mind?
Mostly just the classic, like, pictures of my family that aren't backed up on, our cell phones these days. So it's mostly going to be pictures of my mom's relatives and stuff. And probably books because I have some very expensive books, including school books and just like rare ones as well.
Totally, yeah.
My husband would probably just throw himself on the ashes if all of his Warhammer minis went up, though. So,
Got to go down with the pirate ship.
oh, I'm much more of a like a moments person. So I wouldn't mind if most of the stuff, if I had
Yeah,
to replace it, but the
yeah,
sentimental
but you
stuff.
didn't you didn't paint your sentimental stuff.
Mm-mm, no, I did not. I did not spend all the hours.
What comes to mind when I say the word underrated?
Art.
Any particular art or artist that, kind of springs to mind, or is that just art in general you feel is underrated at this point in time?
I would say maybe particular artists or like genres are underrated these days because our focus on art has changed. But that's more of like a personal opinion than anything because art in itself is subjective. But as me being incredibly selfish, I guess, is thinking that these things deserve recognition.
What are some things that you deserve recognition? And what do you mean by art has changed, or like our perception of it?
I guess for the changing part is that since it is subjective, popular art is always going to be run by probably media these days, in the very least. Um, and so, just like any particular part of culture, you can see it change throughout the time. You know, it used to be like paintings and then photography, and now it's, 30-second TikTok videos online.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I think there's good stuff everywhere.
It's a very, very flattering and appreciative way of looking at that. I like that.
Yeah.
Is there a piece of advice you've gotten over the years that stands out as being one of like the best is a strong word, but kind of tent poles that you always find yourself holding on to and using it to like kind of bring yourself up in times necessary?
I don't know if it's a piece of advice more than just like a mantra of it is gonna be okay because it has to be okay,
Mm,
regardless of what happens. Unless you're dead, you still gotta move on and do something.
yeah. It's kind of like the it, that kind of reminds me of the idea of like it's pointless to look behind you if you're worried there's a monster, because what are you going to do if you look behind you and there is a monster, right?
Yeah, you're just losing valuable time.
Yeah. If you look behind you and there's a monster, unless you're, Galahad or some, strong knight, you're just going to die to the monster. So better not to look behind you and like, upraise that anxiety and potentially like discover an inevitable fear or dread and just, pursue forward for sure.
Well, it's like, what do you want to do? Confirm your greatest fear?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we're all gonna die? Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
now that we know
cool.
that.
I guess maybe my other one would be if it's advice, your 20s suck. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Can confirm.
Yes,
So far, 30s are just only a little better, but they are better.
exactly.
Do you have a favorite anecdote that you like to tell? One that makes you smile or well with pride or, just
I have a really weird one.
hit me.
Um, I found $100 bill in a patient's vagina before.
Safest place to save it, I suppose.
That's sincerely what I thought she believed. Absolutely. It's not very long, but it's my favorite one.
It's wow.
Mostly because this person was also like trying to kill people all night too, but
Oh wow.
medical world is fascinating.
Oh yeah, I definitely suppose so. Stories like that. Goodness. All right. Well, from there, if you could guarantee one of your dreams would come true, which would it be?
Isn't it so sad and like soul crushingly capitalistic to be like, I just wish that I had a house over my head and some food in my belly? That's like the dream nowadays. No, probably to be some sort of writer, or at least to be able to succeed in making something of an artistic endeavor involving writing.
Hmm. Would you want it to be like fictional or?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
which is weird because I've taken a lot of like non-fictional routes in my life recently,
mhm.
which is an interesting twist, but I still love fiction.
Oh yeah. There's nothing like hiding and the never will be.
Absolutely. Definitely though, I mean you know me, I ran a comic book shop. I read comic books, played Magic, did all the nerdy stuff, practically lived in a fantasy world. And now I read books about how the dictionary was made. It's really weird to see that shift in myself, but it's fascinating.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do
Oh,
you
it's
know
not.
how?
Don't say that that's cool. You
Oh,
know
that
it's
is
not
cool. No,
cool.
I totally dig that. How long did they say how long it took
80
from like
years.
80 years? Goodness.
But the thing that's interesting about it is it was mostly done by volunteer work, and for 20 years, the best volunteer, the most accurate, and who like worked the hardest volunteer was actually committed to an insane asylum, and nobody knew it until the very, very end.
That makes just more sense than it should.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
he's in there because he killed a guy randomly who was walking on his way to work because he thought the man was an Irish guy coming to kill him.
as you do.
Yeah, those Irishmen.
Oh, that's terrific. So, growing up, did you have a celebrity crush?
Definitely, like, but like, what age group? You know, there. I feel
High
like
school.
they.
Give me the high school celebrity crush you had.
Oh, let's see. High school was a weird time.
Killing Irish people, making dictionaries. It was strange days.
They were. It's gonna be the classic Brad Pitt, though.
Oh
Unfortunately,
yeah,
he's still so good looking. He's like 60 years old, and
yeah.
he could still get it.
He can still get it. I completely. He's changed demographics, but not like loft. Like he's
Mm.
still on this pedestal that puts him in the clouds, but he's changed like genres of hot, but definitely
He
still
has, but
has
he
it.
he hasn't lost any demographics. He's just gained more. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
he's got it all, baby.
He'll pick him up from the earliest, and then there's old ladies pining after him, I'm sure.
He's gonna do great in the home, I
I
tell
was
you.
gonna say my first crush when I was a little kid, because I didn't understand any of it, was the fox from Robin Hood. It
Oh,
was
the
nothing about his looks. It was just like, who's this like dapper gentleman over here?
he had swagger for sure.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah, taking care of the poor, fighting off the rich. What's not to love?
Yes.
If you could work any of the jobs you've done over the course of your life, but get paid the same as the job where you made the most, which job would you work?
Probably the job I'm at now still.
Why?
I find it rewarding in ways that I haven't found other jobs rewarding. As much as I love a lot of my other jobs, there are still like some pretty glaring problems with them that money cannot solve.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, I really enjoyed working at the comic book shop because it's one of my passions, but their business was just too hard to run these days. Um, I think it can be run properly, but it's fewer and far between. I've found now that I've seen lots of them firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wouldn't want to deal with that day in and day out. I think I'd rather keep it as a passion and a hobby instead of seeing
Totally.
an entire generation of things kind of like slowly die, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, that is definitely one of those like troubling things is also, being in and around that so much. It is kind of like looking at it and being like, yeah, but like how? And I can't imagine knowing more about the sausage makes it any easier to, stomach the process.
Yeah, it's just an incredibly hard business to live in, like the world of like paper collectibles and
Yeah.
anything involving like a physical paper product these days, really.
All going the way of the digitals.
I definitely think that. And then that's fine. Things will change. It's just like I feel like even if I got paid very well, to see that struggle happen all the time
Mm-hmm.
would be hard.
Totally.
Which is actually kind of a weird thing to say because now that I think about it, I deal with dying people all the time. So that struggle is really hard too, but I guess I feel more rewarded.
Well, but that's like an inevitable struggle, right? That's something all
Yeah,
humans are
actually,
going to
that's
have to deal
true.
with, and this one is just you're just watching the changing of the tides and something just go out into, the nebulous expanse and never return because it will cease to exist in
Yeah,
some amount of time, most likely.
returns to the ether from whence it came. We're like the old
Yeah.
people watching the telegraph go out of style.
Exactly.
I'll really miss those beep boops.
Oh, those beep boops. So, is there something you regret not having tried or done before you graduated high school?
I didn't graduate high school for a really long time. I can definitely say that I have done pretty much everything. In fact, the thing I regret is not graduating high school on time.
What caused that circumstance?
To be fair, I was just really poor and I could get a job and I could also like dig off from school. So I was like,
What's
you
not
know
to
what?
love?
This is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So I guess I grew up with a lot of very like loose boundaries. And so like looking back, I think that's the thing that I missed
Mhm.
was bound. I think it's kind of made me a more responsible adult in the long run because I
Mhm.
realize that those are the things that are important to me. But like, whew, I did some crazy stuff.
When did you get around to graduating high school technically?
I got my GED when I was 27 years old.
Damn, congrats.
Mm.
It's not an easy one to go back and get.
Ah, it's the test was easy. It's that's never been the problem. For me, it was just like applying myself in a more structured
Mhm.
manner.
Yeah, totally.
And I had
I
done
I
that all
get
my
that.
life with jobs, but like I had never done that with school. And now I'm just, perpetually in school, which is fine. I actually really enjoy it now, but it just wasn't what I needed when I was younger.
Yeah. Do you think it's because it's your choice to go back to school now and maybe arguably it wasn't then because of like social constructs and like, living with family that, I'm making the assumption kind of wanted you to go and finish school? Or was it another aspect that
I
made
think
made the
so.
difference?
I think that had part of it. A lot of it too was for a lot of my elementary and middle school years, I was part of the gifted children's program, and it just kind of sets you up to be ambitious
Absolutely.
without any follow through.
Yeah. No,
Everybody
I
always tells you how smart you are. You don't
yeah.
have to study much and you still pass all your classes. You don't have to do any homework because you're so good at tests and blah, blah, blah. And I
Yeah, it
think
sets
for
you up
me,
for failure.
yeah, I never had anybody set me down and make me finish what I started,
Yeah.
and
It
here
really
I
does.
am.
It really does. At least for me, it set me up on like a lofty, kind of cloud. Gave me this like air of superiority at times that were definitely not earned or deserved.
Oh,
And then
absolutely.
when push comes to shove, you don't have any of the, or at least for me, I didn't have any of the grit to like keep me from sliding backwards or help me power
Absolutely.
through.
The determination, they call it, tenacity.
Yeah.
It's just, I always relied on being smart and being able to just do everything last minute or like try and cheat the system by doing shortcuts and all that stuff. And just while that can work with a lot of things in life, it doesn't happen with life.
Hmm. So moving on from that fundamental truth, what's the most bizarre fact that you know to be true?
Oh, this is kind of almost this is a little bit of a story. So it's a fact that there was a surgery with a 300% mortality rate. So, which sounds
Where was she pregnant with twins, or did two of
no,
the
oh no,
doctors?
this was not a pregnant person. Um, so back before pre-anesthesia, you pretty much had to be very quick at performing surgery
Mhm.
because your patient could bleed out on the table.
Mhm.
And one of the best surgeons out at the time was a man named Joseph Lister. Make sure I'm getting that right. Because there's also Joseph Liston, and that just really fucks me up because they were both surgeons in medicine and they were both like super famous.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, oh man, it's like the same person practically. It's Liston. That's right. Hey, his name was Robert Liston, and he was so quick that he could amputate a hip in like under a minute, which is just like insane to even think about.
Yeah, what is he
He
using? Like a
was,
meat cleaver? Just like.
oh, he actually made his own knives, like
All right, I respect
specifically.
that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, surgeons back then was just like one step above butcher. But so he was famous for being able to switch out his knives in one draw, like two knives done.
Mm.
And so he was performing it one day and he was amputating the hip. And as he was switching out his blades, he cut off the finger of his assistant. And at the same time, when he extended out all the way, cut the waistcoat of the man standing next to him, because everybody would watch surgeons back then. Well, the
Mm.
man had a heart attack because he thought he had just got sliced in the chest and he died. The assistant died of infection from getting his finger chopped off, and the patient died on the table. And that is the only surgery in history to go down by killing three people at once.
They say go big or go home.
Oh, apparently this was a brood of a man. You also kind of had to like fisticuffs to your people to like even perform the surgery because it was like so painful and horrible. People are like, "Oh,
Jeez.
maybe I can live without this." Like,
Yeah.
so he would just like, pummel them and then chop their limbs off for science, of course.
Yeah, for science. As you do. Fill in the blank for me. This weekend was so great. I spent 13 hours doing.
Sleep. Always sleep.
How much sleep do you find that you often get, and how much would you prefer that you got?
4 hours is what I usually get. Maybe a little bit more on the days that I'm working, like 5 or 6. And I wish I could just get like at least 8, but then it's too much for me. And you know how like if you oversleep, you're tired all day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, over 6 is that for me. It's really awful.
Oh no. Do you feel fully recharged at 6?
When I first wake up and for like half my day, absolutely.
Then the latter half is just, oh god, help me.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know, I go hard, I go big. So my couple hours after waking up are usually pretty busy.
Hmm. Well, being a mother, a wife, and a medical professional will do that, I've been told.
I thought it was also like the copious amounts of weed, and I'm joking.
All the
Just
drugs.
tired all the time.
What's something you see in someone else that makes you want to be their friend?
Authenticity.
Is it about, when it comes to authenticity, what is the thing that like kind of strikes you most? Is it the faults, or is it like the finiteness? Like, sometimes people will be authentic about like their shortcomings. Sometimes people will be authentic about how, like, instead of saying I'm one of the best, they'll be like, oh, I'm like,
Hmm.
23rd or whatever. Like it's, a lot less kind of like lofty and like self-selling, I guess is
Yeah,
what I see in
well,
some people.
I definitely think like being able to admit your shortcomings is absolutely admirable because it's really hard for people to do, especially like genuinely.
Mm-hmm.
But I just like the being authentic, like to yourself, sort of feeling like I feel like I'm actually meeting you instead of what
Yeah.
everybody pretends to be something at some point. But I feel like a lot more people tend to pretend than show you their real selves.
Yeah, you're meeting them the day after Halloween, not while trick-or-treating.
Exactly. And I think that's important because it's kind of what connects us all to being human, as being who we are without, having to apologize for it. I mean, clearly there are, lines that are drawn, but who cares if you're the weird one? It
Yeah.
just makes you you.
Yeah, accepting yourself and not being afraid to show it is definitely a huge, for me, as well as a
Oh, you
huge
can be
high
afraid.
five. Yeah, exactly.
Just power past it.
Yeah, don't be afraid to admit that you're afraid.
Exactly.
It's better to be that than, being afraid.
That's true.
What do you wish you had started sooner that you currently do or did?
School. Definitely school.
Going back the second time, or going back for high school, or going to higher learning for medicine?
Higher learning for medicine. And it's not because I don't think that I can do it or can't do it. It's just that I have a lot less time on my hands than say like a 19 or 20-year-old
Mm.
as, you know. I refuse to let like school take any time away from spending time with my young child. So I pretty much do everything at nighttime after he's asleep because at the end of the day I can always keep going to school. He's only going to be, 2 or 3 and yada yada for so long.
A
Uh,
year, I think, actually.
yeah, and so I just have been able to tell the difference in that and
Mm.
like I have better time management skills than a lot of the younger kids I've noticed.
Yeah.
That they're able to retain the knowledge a lot faster, whereas my brain is filled with a bunch of bull crap, like
Yeah. Well, it's just filled with more, right? Because, I mean, you've lived, 10, 5 more years than them, have experienced a lot more, where they are over here just, I don't want to pretend that, like, their brain is empty, but it's definitely got a lot more room for that sofa of knowledge that is, surgery, or that bookcase of knowledge that is, cardiac arrest treatment, or I'm using hot button terms that I barely know from ER, so
code blue,
bear
code
with how
blue.
wrong they are.
No, I understand that, and I think so too. But I mean, I definitely spent a lot of time filling my brain up with garbage.
But garbage is the best. It's the easiest to throw away and the only thing that you have that other people don't. It's
Have you
great.
met hoarders? They don't throw garbage away. I'm a brain hoarder, man. Brain garbage hoarder.
Brain hoarder. That's the name for my next metal band.
Well, it's like, come on, Alex, why do you need to remember the Charmin advertisement song from the early 90s? You can just forget that.
Like, yeah, like JELLO. It's alive. They'll
Oh my
always
God, right.
like, I
Absolutely.
can't not forget those I could recreate those ads with a camera and 5 kids in a cafeteria in like a New York minute.
Absolutely. Like, why am I holding on to that? That can't be that much of a core memory.
Who needs to remember how to do surgery when I can tell you
Exactly.
all 5 marshmallow types and Lucky Charms?
They're the
So on the
same
flip side,
flavor, damn it.
yeah, but they're different colors. So on the flip side of this coin, what do you wish you had ended sooner?
Hard one. I don't know. I've kind of become like crushingly optimistic as like a coping mechanism, I'm sure. Hmm. Renting.
You wish you had bought a house sooner?
Yes, even though I know how hard it is for young people to buy houses. It's about the only thing that you can, make money on if you can keep afloat through hard times.
Yeah, is it in just it'll just improve in equity as time goes on, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, it's the one thing that's always going to have value, like land and property in this America are just
yeah.
things that make money as long as you can hold on to it through hard times, you're going to come out ahead.
If you could go back in time and tell yourself one sentence, what would it be, and when would it be?
Hmm. It would definitely be in my late teens. And it's just like the classic, like everything will be okay. Because I
Mm.
feel like I went through a very angsty, dark period of my life that I see a lot of my younger friends go through right now. Like I can recognize it now that I'm
Just by the
farther away from
eyeshadow.
it. Yeah, just by the streaks of mascara running down their face as they cry in the shower. But it's really sad to see some of these younger kids kind of go through what I felt like I went through, which is just like the hopelessness
Mm.
of being alive right now.
Yeah, totally.
And like
And
I
it's only getting better, I tell you.
Yeah, right. Well, I think it gets better as you get older because you get better, not because the world gets better per
Yeah,
se, but you're able to see it a little differently.
totally. All right, and before we throw it to our first ad break, if you could make sure listeners of this podcast heard one song, which song would it be?
Probably No Children by the Mountain Goats because it's just very fun.
Says
Little
a
angsty.
mother. Run, child.
It's a very happy song. You could
Just
tell.
got a very dark title. I guess it depends upon the way you look at it. For some people, that's a very glorious title.
Well, you ever watch Moral Oral?
Yeah.
It,
Back in the day on Adult Swim, yeah.
it's a song I heard from there, that weird show, and I'm pretty sure he was smoking crack while he did it, but it's a great song.
Great song, great show.
Mhm.
All right, guys, we're going to throw it to our first commercial break. Check out that show, check out that song, and we'll see you when you come back. Having trouble staying awake?
Oh, yeah.
Wish you'd followed your dream so you had the give a crap necessary to meet your deadlines?
Oh, definitely.
Are you likely to be fired the second another warm body walks through that door and asks your boss for an application?
Probably.
Would you prefer to keep this shit sack of a job instead of explaining to Susan that you've been fired?
I mean, I guess.
Well, then let me introduce you to caffeine. Caffeine is a highly addictive substance that'll keep you jittery and energized to do any fucking stupid task for hours.
Uh, that sounds like drugs.
It is!
Aren't drugs illegal?
Not this one. So next time you feel like sitting on the sidewalk instead of at your desk, reach for a caffeine.
Wait, you didn't tell me where I can buy it.
'Cause it's mother lovin' everywhere, you blind Neanderthal. Alright, folks, and welcome back. Thank you for returning. Hope you enjoyed that very paid advertisement and not totally fake.
I'm sure it was very creative.
Oh, so creative. The sponsors loved it. So, Alex, what is your passion?
I love medical science history.
It almost sounded like you were going to go into like Mystery Science Theater for a second.
It's weirder than that, in all honesty.
What is it about medical science history that you love so much?
I just think it's very fascinating what we know now to be true compared to what we didn't know and thought to be true even like 100 years ago.
You're talking like the whole practice of like bleeding some people and
Oh
like stuff
yes,
like that.
the leeches and the plague masks, thinking that the bad smells were what gave it to you. I mean, just so much like how we didn't even believe in any sort of like microbiology. We didn't think that anything that was so tiny and microscopic that it could take down a grown man.
Mm-hmm.
Or how we thought like babies were conceived in the liver area. It's just,
Is that where that idea of women shouldn't drink while pregnant comes from? Is there won't be room for the child?
yeah, exactly. You gotta make room for the liquor.
So what got you into this other than other than your just fascination? Was there somebody that introduced this to you? Were you watching, the History Channel one night and just got intrigued? What was the kind of what was the cane yank on stage, as it were?
I think I was reading a book about um, dead bodies. It's called Stiff by Mary Roach, and it's very fascinating. And it's just sort of about everything that we do with dead bodies currently and like what we used to do with them. And, you know, I think that kind of opened the door to seeing all the weird things that we would do. Because, like, we buried people alive so often back in the day that we literally had to tie, like, a bell
Yeah.
to their finger, in case we started hearing some bells move. And then, most of the time it would still be a dead person, like the rats were getting at it or something. But It was
That
just
has to have
really
been
weird.
horrifying to be the guy on duty at the graveyard that day, and just like a bell's going off. It's like, oh god,
You
like
know, I almost feel like nowadays we'd be much more scared than some of the people back then that would have horrifying jobs.
just walk out there, open a casket with a gun, or
Yeah,
just like
exactly. And just like, well, not today.
coin flip on the zombie attack.
Yeah, I'm sure they had zero problems with it. It was a weird world back then. Oh my gosh. But it's like stuff from claiming that like hot springs are magical healing elixirs and putting cocaine in your wine for your headaches and removing parts of your body that didn't need to be removed just because we thought weird stuff. It's like medicine today already is so crazy it doesn't sound real.
Yeah.
Like the more I learn about it, I'm like, this isn't real. This is all fictional. Ain't no way this is real. But back then, whew,
Boy, howdy.
man, could you imagine digging through a corpse looking for the soul, thinking the gallbladder was it?
Wow, then I have no soul. That's great. Good to know.
Oh, you have no gallbladder.
I got my gallbladder removed. What was this, like 5 years ago? Yeah.
Did you stop eating greasy food?
No. What are you, crazy? I'm still an American.
Yeah, right.
It's only so much I can do.
Or it's like for birth contraceptive back in the day, people thought shoving, like animal feces up in your vagina was the way to go.
Oh.
Just like things that would make you
So it
come
just
as
was
girl.
everybody just like a walking yeast infection back then?
I could
Jesus
only assume.
Christ.
I don't.
That is, oh. I can't
Yeah.
imagine. Can you imagine going back in time as a doctor and just walking around and trying to, like, you wouldn't be able to take 2 feet, like 2 steps without trying to like fix every problem that you saw just because of how like uproariously heinous it was.
Oh, I mean, most of the thing that we died from back then was infection
Yeah.
for clearly obvious reasons now, since we're shoving poops in all of our orifices. And I think that's what fascinates me about it is just like the human's ability to actually like figure out what's going on. Because, if you start from a blank slate, you can kind of understand some of these, you know, theories, I guess. But then other ones, you're like, even somebody with eyes could tell that this is not how that works. Like,
Yeah. It's just like wiggity whack as shit. Yeah. It's interesting how our perspective as a human race has changed over the years. And in some ways, how it hasn't. How we just go with, this is the way it's done. And then like people look at it. And it's the people that, we need the contradictor, if you will, to just be like, wait, no, why? That doesn't make any sense. Or to just disagree, even though, logic dictates or historical evidence dictates like the opposite.
well, and I think that's why I like science so much, is because it admits to its like errors and
Yeah.
tries to be transparent, and it's also even like the most hardbound fact driven things are still called theory, because there
Yeah.
could still always be something out there that changes. But
No, that's like the
interesting.
absolute most beautiful thing about science is like it's something that, after learning about it, I've tried to do, but it's still so hard. But it's like kind of beautiful about the scientific field is the way discourse, at least on paper looks like it's handled, and the way that, kind of it's is all about, the data. It's all
Oh
about,
yeah.
prove it.
I mean, that's what
And
half the school is going to, is how knowing how to compile and deconstruct data. It's very boring, that aspect of it. Like, I'm glad it exists because it is our proof, quote unquote. But I also feel like there needs to just be like a narrator for all that stuff to tell us. Like, here's shorthand in real people words
yeah.
how this thing works. Because I can't tell you, I've gone through like hundreds and hundreds of pages of reports, and it just makes you fall asleep sometimes.
It's beautiful and dense as a log. So, did you get into? Was this about the same time that you got in to your passion as you did into this. So you're going to school and working in the field simultaneously through the
Yeah.
same. Is it through the same thing? Like the school effectively like hires you, or how does that work?
No, I found a job at a hospital, um, and then like I went to school for a little bit, and then I found a job at a hospital, and now I'm just going to school part time and work full time.
Okay. So was it the whole passion of medical science history? Did that come before, after, during? Like, at what point did your fascination with it really start to take off?
Probably a couple years ago, and I'd say even before I thought I wanted to truly be in the medical field. Um, it's probably what kind of helped inspire me to actually, go through with it too, was just learning about history and our like development even throughout this short amount of time that I've been on Earth. And then it's just kind of fostered ever since then.
That's awesome. It's so rare talking to people about this that they get to, some people make the passion their job, some people's job becomes their passion, but it's really cool for the passion to find a passion and then, find love and then, find occupation in this way. It's so
Yeah, definitely
fantastic.
kind of helped guide it,
Mm.
and it's I mean, I'm lucky because it's a field that is never gonna not need somebody to work in it.
Turns out people are always going to get hurt and injured
Yes,
or
this is very
sick.
true.
Yeah.
Sick, especially right now. That's what's
Yeah.
driving me crazy.
So from the vantage point of the wider world, what is the biggest misconception about medical science history?
I think the biggest misconception is taking an error of science and them saying that they did that something was wrong or that something else is different, and then taking that as like the medical world lying to them,
Mm.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Like
because I mean, like,
as if saying that there is something wrong and saying that there is something wrong is proof that there's mistrust there.
yeah, I think like one of the ideas that we talked about a second ago that it for me is just like humans are fallible. Humans
Absolutely.
make science, which eventually becomes as infallible as we get as human. It is as a concept as mortals, but at the end of the day, it's still humans doing it, and we don't always get to that infallible place. And so sometimes things change. Information wasn't perfect, and it's we're trying.
Yeah, and
You
people
guys are
aren't
trying, and
perfect.
like sometimes it's not. It's just like granted the scientific process is better now, but like back in the day with the Black Plague and stuff like that, the people of science were trying their best to try and figure out this impossible problem for them at the time. Granted, they got it wrong as hell, but they were
Yeah.
still trying, and we're getting it. As time goes on, and as humans perfect the idea of like true knowledge or whatever, we're getting it better, but we're still sometimes getting it wrong. So to look at that and be like, oh, they're lying to us, it's like, no, it's just, they're trying. And trying
Yeah,
doesn't
and
always equal perfection.
just like, with people like scientists and doctors and medical professionals are also human themselves. And just because they are in a particular field, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are trying to like harm you with their, you know, any misinformation that they do give. But that's why you try and like look at the whole picture,
Mm.
you know, because even like people who have like had really bad personal incidences within like a hospital or like a group, they give it that their reason to kind of dislike the entire thing. Like, don't get me wrong, our healthcare system is one thing, but like when a bunch of doctors are trying to tell you like what you could do to save your life or those around you.
Yeah. By and large, they are giving you the best information that you could receive at the time, and to like blanketly mistrust something because it
Yeah,
came from a source of people that have spent so many years, you know, getting it right and knowing what they're doing is preposterous.
Well, and I know it's kind of like a hot button topic these days, but I've seen it everywhere too, and it's just the hard to kind of deal with sometimes, especially nowadays.
I mean, also too, like, isn't it kind of like a couple bad apples have spoiled the bunch for some people with like in regards to like the pain addiction, or like the pain pill addiction kind of thing in
Oh,
like the Midwest
absolutely.
especially. You know, it's like yes, there were some doctors that prescribed this knowingly, but a lot of them, you know, would probably were doing this because they thought, you know, from the information they
Oh,
had been given.
absolutely. And I feel like that it should go without speaking for anybody because at the end of the day, whatever occupation you're dealing with is still going to be a person and people like are infallible. But it's very important to like, you know, look across and see that there are like there are definitely multiple options and I'll always go with the group that says that they don't know everything and are looking into different options and the group that says that there's like only one particular way to do
Mm-hmm.
things because you'd be surprised like what can help if you're just like open-minded and that is definitely like an interesting part of science that I don't see get utilized as often.
Totally. Do you have a favorite non-obvious aspect to like the I or to your passion of medical science history? Is there something that most people don't know that you just find fascinating, or that is kind of like a hidden gem, or you know something like that?
Um, I guess it's the weird way of saying just be glad that we have different ways of dealing with corpses, and we should move away from burying people in the ground.
Yeah.
Like it's a very odd one, and nobody wants to talk about it because who likes talking about corpses rotting in the ground? But like it's super bad for our environment, and we
Yeah.
need to come up with better ways to house all the people that will be,
What
leaving
is
this
you
mortal coil.
what is your preferred way after
Sky
you
burial. It's super
sky?
illegal, but I would do it.
Is that where you get or how does sky barrel work? I guess I should just ask.
So it's usually you just will leave the corpse out to be eaten by like birds and vultures and stuff like that.
Oh shit.
Hmm.
That is not what I expected at
Yeah.
all.
No,
Wow. I was
now
expecting it
you're
like you get like you know, like shot up in the sky and just like explode like a firework. Holy
Oh, that
shit.
would be cool too. But no, that'd probably also be bad for the earth. No, that way, animals get to eat you and you just
Yeah.
return to the part of the
Yeah.
circle of life.
Yeah, I think the one that I've seen, that one's hardcore. I respect that, but I don't know if I'd want anybody to envision that. So the one that I've heard about recently is where you get cremated and then your remains get twisted in like the root soil and seed of like a tree and you can be planted. And that way a lot of your like kind of better ingredients get returned to the earth
Oh
or it
yeah,
can do some good.
absolutely. You got a whole bunch of good stuff in there. I've also seen like you can get freeze dried and turned into
Would you like a
soil.
part of freeze dried grandpa? Like,
Yeah, no,
oh.
you just get turned into fertilizer, It's beautiful. It just is really expensive these days.
Yeah. Can't be more. I doubt it's more expensive than getting put in like a really nice box and then like having them dig an exact hole and put a headstone though.
It's just so bad for everything. Like,
Yeah. There's quite literally nothing good about it.
no, not really. And it's all this whole weird notion of how we have to like preserve how the person looked because
Yeah.
we have
Oh
this
yeah,
weird
that's
connection to body and soul.
yeah. So for you, is there an end goal or something you're driving towards when it comes to, you know, medical science history? Or is that just a passion that is kind of quasi linked and, you know, in the
I
same
would
venue as your work?
like to have my own like library filled with curios and medical curiosities.
Sweet. Just a whole banister lined with fantastic old medical journals and
Yeah, I can just go in there and
snappily
smoke
facts.
my cigars and snuff my brandy and stuff, and tell weird, drunken, incoherent tales about how I found this thing.
That's awesome. Well, I hope to visit that someday.
Oh, one day.
Switching from one foot to the other, what is your preposterous peeve?
People who wear lots of rings. If you have a ring on every finger, I'm sorry, I dislike you automatically. You could be a neurophysicist, and if you have a ring on every finger, I'm just going to speak down to you.
Do you think it belies like unintelligence, or
I
is
think
it
that
like a aesthetic thing? What is it that drives you so mad about it?
I think
Was there
both.
somebody in life that just pimp slapped you and had 5 rings and you're just like,
No, but I
never
feel like
again?
I've never met a good one. Have you ever met somebody who wore a ring on every finger and you're like, oh, that's a stand-up person? No, they're always like weird and like they're like a stranger who's like, hey, can I hold $20 for a minute? I don't know.
I don't
And
need to
it's like
borrow
they're
$20. I just
gross.
need to hold it. I want to know what it feels like because I've never had that much money in my life.
And just like all the bacteria between the rings and their fingers. It's like, when's the last time you washed your hands? And it probably wasn't that good.
So it's like it's the finger equivalent of dreadlocks for you.
Ooh, yes, I would rather have dreadlocks than a ring on every finger.
What is the number of rings where it like if you're watching a friend or
What
you
is
go
an
over to
excessive
somebody that
amount of rings?
you thought was a friend's house and they start putting on rings, at what point does it raise suspicion? And at what point are you just like walking out the door because you don't need to get trapped in there with this person?
3 or 4, and I think it all depends on placement too. Like you get the ring finger for marriage, that's fine. That's a freebie, I guess. But like 3 or 4 rings, you don't need that many. How many adornments do you need?
When they start going on the thumb, it's a alarm bells are
A
going off in your
single
head.
a single thumb is tasteful. I can agree that that is tasteful, but like when or how about like a ring on every finger and then multiple rings on the same finger as well as a ring on every finger?
Who do you
Ugh,
think you are, Bill Russell? Get out of here with that
yeah, like
nonsense.
ugh, get out of here with all that turquoise.
But what if they're? I'm trying to think of rings where it like makes sense, but I
They
really can't
don't.
come up with them.
None
No,
of them do. There is
they're
zero reason to have all those on your fingers. Or they're always like the girls with really skinny, skinny fingers and they just look like giant weird knuckles all the time and like half their fingers are green because they have like really shitty like nickel polish on them and stuff. It's just the guys are the worst though. They smell like cigarettes in like a strip club.
yeah, that's where they live. They smell like their house. That makes sense.
And if it's a guy that has a ring on every finger, at least 3 of them will be skulls.
Oh yeah, he's got to show. He's got to show dominance.
Well, you gotta
He's
show
already
that.
put too many things that our society deems as frilly and girly.
Yeah, so you
He's
gotta
got to reclaim
masculine up that
dominance.
ring.
Yeah.
Hmm. Might as
And
well
what's
just put
more
like a big old
masculine than death?
vagina ring just to make sure they know you're not gay.
Because that's unexcusable.
Hmm.
That was delightful. All right, we're gonna throw it to our second ad break while our viewers out there can count the number of rings in all their preposterous life decisions.
I will not like you if you have more than 3. I'm just saying.
So if you have 4 more rings, feel
Hmm.
free to check out at the end of this episode, and we'll see you next week. If you've got 3 or less, feel free to come back after the second ad break, where we hit the lightning round. Be right back. Have you ever wanted to kill a small woodland creature or break a window but not had the physical strength? I know I have. Now introducing Rock. Rock comes in a variation of sizes and ready to use. Simply put Rock in your hand, raise it back to ear level, and release. See? You've got it! This ad does not condone the violence against small woodland creatures or windows, nor will it be held liable for any inability of use when coming into contact with paper. And we're back. Alex, are you ready for the lightning round?
Bang, bang, bang.
Is there a god or like?
lightning round.
As ready as I'll ever be.
All right. However many seconds it takes to answer these questions on the clock. Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
No.
Lions, tigers, or bears?
Lions.
Caffeine or alcohol?
Caffeine.
Are hot dogs sandwiches?
Yes.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Something terrible.
Bow ties or suspenders?
Bow ties.
Is there a god?
No.
Neapolitan or Spumoni?
Oh, who the fuck chooses Spumoni? Spumoni people are going up there with ring people. Neapolitan.
Are we alone in the universe?
Yes.
No one's looking. Do you put the cart back or leave it in the parking lot?
Oh, I leave it in the parking lot.
Kill the spider or get an adult?
Kill the spider.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
Pineapple on pizza.
Have you ever paid more for a meal than you made in a week?
Yes.
If you had the power to see the future but couldn't change it, would you use it?
No.
Red or blue?
Red.
Is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No.
Shakira's voice in Danny DeVito's body or Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body?
Shakira's body, Danny DeVito's voice.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
Over or under?
Over.
Salsa or Lindy Hop?
Salsa.
Dog or cat?
Dog.
Sunny side up, scrambled, or hard boiled?
Sunny side up.
Which do you max out first? Intelligence, charisma, or strength?
Charisma.
Can billionaires be ethical?
No.
Which one of your parents settled?
Neither.
All right, congratulations, alEX. You've survived the lightning round. What lightning round question would you like to ask me, and in turn be asked of our future guests?
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher from The Nanny?
I mean, I already whine enough. I feel like Gilbert Gottfried would just like fit with what I got going on and what I'm saying. Fran Drescher would be too, have too much energy and be
You don't
too
like her
optimistic.
laugh? It's just
I mean, her laugh could raise me from a dead sleep, but I just feel like it's too optimistic. I would never laugh like that. I don't think I've ever heard anything that funny or that uplifting in my life. Gilbert's he's got his head on a swivel. I think he knows what's up.
I feel like I could hear him argue about almost anything.
And simultaneously, you'd understand and disagree with him, I think.
There's a beautiful video of him reading, what's that?
Oh, is it WAP? I think there's a video of him reading the lyrics to WAP.
It could be. No, it's, that sexy book that's not really that sexy.
50
That all
Shades
the
of Grey?
Yeah, it's him reading
Yeah,
50 Shades
I've seen that. It helps the book more than it hurts it, to be sure.
I agree. If
there was an audio version of that book, I would be far more inclined to buy it than previously.
Oh, absolutely. I would actually listen to that then.
All right, as we bring this podcast to a close, is there anything you want to plug, recommend, places people could find you or your content?
No, I'll just tell everyone to always keep learning because it's going to be whatever your apocalypse job is at now, pretty much.
Awesome. Well, thank you, alEX, for being my guest today. And special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, my composer, Joshua Gibbons. Especially thank you, everybody listening at home or wherever you found the time to appreciate this. And if you want to listen to more, you can find more episodes put out every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves or on YouTube at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. All one word with an ampersand in the middle. And remember, folks, there's a path you take and a path untaken. And then there's a path with rattlesnakes and poison ivy. Don't take that path. Have a good one.